Math 100, Lesson 7-1. We begin pre-calculus with graphs. Now that may be scary to some of you, but graphs are going to be really important to us. And we will start with just the Cartesian coordinate system. So this is what you're used to seeing. Hopefully you've seen this before. We have our x-axis. Would be a number line that goes left and right. We have our y-axis. Would be a number line that goes up and down. This point where they cross has a name. It is called the origin. And since the x-axis is a number line, the numbers to the right of the origin are our positive numbers. The numbers to the left of the origin are our negative numbers, and they continue. On our y-axis, the numbers below the x-axis, below the x-axis are our negative, and the numbers above would be positive. So this is our Cartesian coordinate plane. And so I just want to review and make sure that we all understand how to do a little bit of basic graphing. If this is super simple to you, I am so glad. That should have said an ordered pair, not an ordered graph. So when we graph points in the Cartesian coordinate plane, we always graph an ordered pair. X is the number on the x-axis and y is the number on the y-axis. So if I ask you to graph the ordered pair -2, 3. So we're going to start at the origin, and then I'll move 2 places to the left and then 3 places up. So this would be my ordered pair, -2, 3. Okay, and those Roman numerals are the names of the quadrants. So if I said what quadrant contains the ordered pair -1, -3. Well, I don't have that graphed, but I could graph it. So let's say I use a blue, and I come over here and I look at the origin is where I would begin. I go to the left 1 and then down 3. So this would be where that ordered pair is, -1, -3. So the question is, what quadrant contains it? And so this would be quadrant 3. Contains that ordered pair. All right, so that's the basic part of graphing. Let's go ahead and jump into graphing some other things. In this case, this would be a line. You don't have to necessarily recognize that that is a line, because we're going to graph it by making a table. And so that's the first way that we're going to graph things, is by making a table. And when I say make a table, I'm talking about a table of values. So we're going to choose x values, and then we're going to find the y values that go with them. And so I'm going to choose these x values, and what we're going to do is find the y value that goes with each one. So if I have x is -2, then this really says minus negative really becomes a plus, and so that would be a 6. All right, so we're going to use each of these x values to find the y value that goes with it. Almost finished with our table. Now, I have chosen just a few values to plug into my table. This does not mean that this is all of the ordered pairs on this graph. This is just some of them. All right, so now we're going to sketch ourselves a little graph with our x and y axis, and we will graph each of our ordered pairs. All right, so the ordered pair -2, 6. I'm going to need to make my graph a little bigger. It'll run into my little word up there. Okay, so negative 2, 6 is going to be way up here. Negative 1, 5, 0, 4, 1, 3, and 2, 2. So I have graphed those ordered pairs, and now I'm going to connect them. Notice that I don't stop at those last 2 points that I found. I go through them, okay? And at the end, I put arrows because it does continue on. It is a line. It doesn't stop at just these ordered pairs from our table. So there would be our graph. Now, all of our graphs aren't going to be lines, and you may not recognize what they're going to be until you actually make your table and plot your points. All right, so this is graph y is equal to the absolute value of x. Now, some of you may know what that looks like. If not, that's okay. We are going to make a table. Anytime we're asked to graph something, we can make a table. I'm going to use those same x values again. It is a good habit to use negatives and positives for your x-axis, and it is also helpful if when you choose your first x value, if you will go in order. So negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2. Now we're going to find the y values that go with each one. So y is the absolute value of negative 2, which would be positive 2. So that's going to work for all of these. Absolute value of negative 1 is positive 1. Absolute value of 0 is 0. The absolute value of 1 is 1. And the absolute value of 2 is 2. So now we'll graph our ordered pairs. Sketch a little x and y axis. It is definitely best if you do this on graph paper, but certainly okay to sketch our little graph. Just make sure it's not so tiny. All right, so my ordered pairs are negative 2, 2, negative 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, and 2, 2. Again, when I connect these, I don't just stop at the last ones. I go through them. Okay, because remember, this is just some of the points on the graph. It is not all of the points on the graph. All right, let's try a different kind. All right, so y equals 1 minus x squared. Again, we are going to make a table. And I'm going to stick with those same x values, making my table. All right, so I plug each value in to find the y that goes with it. So let's be careful here with our arithmetic. Negative 2 squared is positive 4, but there's still a minus in front of that parentheses. So we get y is negative 3. All right, on this next one, negative 1 squared is positive 1, but we still have the negative in front of the parentheses. So 1 minus 1 is 0. Whoops. 0 squared is just 0, so 1 minus 0 is 1. 1 squared is 1. So 1 minus 1 is 0. And 2 squared is 4. So y is negative 3. All right, so now we're going to sketch our little graph. Again, make sure that you don't make this so tiny that we can't find our ordered pairs easily on the graph. All right, so negative 2, negative 3, negative 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, and 2, negative 3. Now, when I draw this curve, Since this is an x squared, this one is a curve. Okay, the difference between this graph and the one before came to a sharp corner. This one does not. It is a smooth corner. And so sometimes it's hard to decide, well, how do I know that when I'm just making a table? Well, that's going to be something that we work on as we go. There are things we're going to recognize to be true. All right, while we have this graph up here, we're going to do a couple of other things with this graph. We are going to look at an x-intercept and a y-intercept. Intercepts, in this case an x-intercept, is where the graph crosses the x-axis. And so a y-intercept would be where the graph crosses the y-axis. All right, so let's do that for this particular graph. Let's talk about what is the x-intercept and what is the y-intercept. All right, so the x-intercept, where it crosses the x-axis, okay? Notice those two little points right there. That's where it's crossing the x-axis. So I could write those as ordered pairs. So the first one would be the ordered pair -1, 0. The second one would be the ordered pair 1, 0. Now sometimes in my math lab, it will ask you for the x-intercept, but it doesn't want it as an ordered pair. So you're going to have to pay attention to what my math lab says and how it wants you to type in the answer. If it just says, what is the x-intercept? And it doesn't ask it for an ordered pair, then we would just say -1 and 1. So we can list them as ordered pairs, like I have done here, or we can just name them -1 and 1, depending on what my math lab is looking for. All right, my y-intercept, okay, my y-intercept, that's where it crosses the y-axis. And so that would be the ordered pair 0, 1. There's only one of those. If I named it just as an integer, that would be just 1. Again, paying attention to how my math lab wants you to put in your answer. So as you're doing these graphs, as you're sketching your graphs, make sure that you are really careful to put them exactly where they belong. When you're graphing in my math lab, it's super simple, but if you're having a hard time using the graphing tool, please let me know and I can help you. And I look forward to seeing you guys in a team.